Alright you guys, today we have a very important issue to talk about, and it's the Kylie Cosmetics Grinch palette. When I first saw this being previewed, I won't lie, I was very excited. I love the Grinch and I just love everything about Christmas. So of course the Grinch movie has been a staple in my Christmas movie watching list, routine, whatever, for years and years and years. So when Kylie Cosmetics was coming out with a palette, I won't lie, I was pretty excited, even though I've never purchased from Kylie Cosmetics and I don't really foresee that changing in the near future. But when I saw this palette, I was so disappointed. So I've taken it upon myself to redesign the Grinch palette and make my own. And here it is, you guys. Today's video is going to be all about kind of swatching this palette, talking about the shade selection, and I just thought it would be really fun to make because I knew I could do better than that palette. So without further ado, let's hop into it. So as you guys can tell, I actually decided to condense the palette down a little bit. I have just found myself really gravitating towards smaller palettes lately, like 16 to 12 shades is kind of my sweet spot. And as I was putting this one together, it originally started as like a 9 pan. I don't think I had like any of this row. It originally started as this, and then I was like, I want to spice it up a little bit. I feel like I need at least a little bit of a neutral something in there, which is why I threw in this shade. And I wanted a multi-chrome, so I threw in that shade as well. And honestly, you guys, I am so excited to play with this palette. I actually created this look on my eyes right here with mostly the shades in this palette. I did have to dip out for this kind of minty inner corner shadow, but this look will actually be up on my Instagram stories the day that this video goes live, so definitely head over there if you guys aren't following me so you can check out the tutorial. But anyways, let's get back to the palette, you guys. I am so thrilled with how this came out. When I sat down to create it, I won't lie, I was a little bit worried that it was just gonna be like a part 2 of my Jeffree Star Blood Money palette dupe. I can link that video down below if you guys are interested in watching that one. I basically just like shop my stash for dupes for that palette instead of purchasing from Jeffree Star. But I was really pleased with the outcome of this one. I felt like it was a little more unique, a little more jazzed up, you know. And of course with this palette, as I do with most of my shop my stash for dupe palettes, I added some new textures, some new finishes. There's some multi-chromes, there's some duochromes. We've got just a little bit more interest happening here, and that makes me really excited. So without further ado, let's hop into the swatches, guys. Alright, you guys, to kick the palette off, I started off with Devinah Cosmetics Celesta, and I almost didn't include this shadow. I have another shadow in its place until like the last second last night when I was making this palette. This is a really beautiful kind of like greeny golden shadow, and it's also very sparkly. Well, I hesitate to say very sparkly because I feel like when I say very sparkly and I'm talking about this kind of shadow, my mind immediately goes to JD Glow 365, and that has so much glitter, so much texture, like it knocks my socks off every single time I wear it. This one's like a step down from that. It's still sparkly, still very beautiful on the lids, but it's not quite pumped up to that level yet. As you can see, it's kind of one of those like greeny golden shades with that really warm kind of terracotta base, and I hesitated to throw like any kind of neutral anything in here, but I do feel like this is like a very Grinchy shadow, so I had to throw it in. I couldn't not throw it in. And then I felt it was really essential to have a mid-tone greeny matte. After using this palette a little bit today, I kind of wish I would have thrown some more matte greens in here, but that's okay. And this is Emme Cosmetics Palm Tree. This is a really beautiful kind of like almost a grassy green matte. It kind of reminded me of like the Grinch in the Jim Carrey version and like the live action version versus the Grinch in like the cartoon version. So here's that shadow swatched here. The shadow that I felt was much more similar to the color of the Grinch in like the original cartoon version was this shade right here from Lethal Cosmetics. It's the shade Relapse. It's this really beautiful, it's almost a pastel shade, like yellowy green shadow. Really gorgeous, and I thought it would be a great transition shade for any kind of green look that you guys are creating this season. I feel like this is a shade that you can apply it more heavily and make it like really impactful, and like people come up like and you're like, you've got green eyeshadow on. Or you can sheer it out a little bit and pair it with like maybe this neutral brown right here, or neutral like muddy greenish brown right there, and it'll just add a little bit of special something to your look and help you blend it out. And then finally in this first row, we have Clionadh Cosmetics Reflectence. This is a really beautiful, soft, kind of like multi-chrome-esque inner corner shadow. It definitely has a pretty strong like mint green reflect, but it also has some pink shifts, and I see a little bit of blue in it as well. I had to throw a fun inner corner shade in here, you guys. If you're not going to be like fun on your eyes during the holidays, like when are you going to be fun on your eyes, you know? I feel like it's time to go big or go home. Moving on to the second row, we're going to start off with Emme Cosmetics Venice. This is such a cool green, you guys. This really reminds me of the green that the Grinch is in the like newer cartoon version that came out, was that last year or 2 years ago? It came out like semi-recently. I love this green, you guys. I have it on my lower lash line today, and I think it's just so fun and so vibrant. It'll really add some brightness and some vibrancy to any look that you incorporate it into. And I just thought it would be super fun for holiday. Next shade that I included is Sydney Grace Tempest. This is definitely like an electric metallic lime green. I just had to throw this in here because it just brings me joy. And you know what? The holidays are a joyous time, and I wanted to include as many beautiful green shadows as I could in this palette. I was a little bit hesitant to include both Venice and Tempest because in the pan they look, I mean, they don't look crazy similar, but they look a little bit similar. But after swatching them side by side, I think they do give off really different vibes. This one is a bit more blue toned, and I feel like it's almost more, I don't want to say classic Christmas vibes, but I just feel like it could be toned down a little bit more, where this one's like bam in your face, you know? Next up, we have the shade Callisto from Terra Moons Cosmetics. This is one of their pastel chameleons. This one's a much softer green. Since it is one of their pastel chameleons, it does have some of that like iridescent multi-chroma dust mixed into it. So it does have a really pretty kind of like golden pinky reflect. Again, I wanted to include some softer green shadows to create like a slightly more muted green look, because not everyone wants to rock this on Christmas, or sometimes I don't even want to rock this on Christmas, but I thought that would be a nice little balance between something that's still green and still festive and still kind of Grinchy, but it's not a boring shadow, you know? Okay, next up we have Sydney Grace Backwoods, which is, as I said, kind of that like murky, muted, pukey brown. I feel like it has a tiny bit of green to it. So it really plays nicely with the other tones in this palette. It's just a good like neutral crease shade. Moving on to the final row, we have Lethal Cosmetics Eden, which is a beautiful deep like forest green matte. I love this green because I feel like it's deep enough to add some depth to a look, but not so deep to where like you apply it to your eyes and you can't even tell that it's green anymore. It's a really beautiful shadow. Oof, you guys, we're running out of arm space. Thankfully, we've only got 3 shadows left. Next up, we have Clionadh Cosmetics Carving, which is, again, one of their multi-chrome shadows. This is a glitter multi-chrome, so it has more of a, I believe it's a gray toned base, and it's more like metallic and shimmery. It's a really beautiful shadow. This one shifts from like taupe to pink to green, and I just adore pairing like pink with green. I think it's such a fun combo, and this shade is no exception. I thought it would just pair so beautifully with the rest of these shadows. Again, I wanted to throw this in here as like somewhat of a neutral if you want to tone it down a little bit, but it still does kind of have that fun little green twist to it. Okay, I could not create a Grinch palette or any kind of holiday palette really without including an emerald green, and this is Aether from Lethal Cosmetics. I threw this one in because it's a little bit more of a satin metallic. It's not crazy impactful on the lid, so I feel like you could really get away with probably using this one as a matte in your outer corner, in your crease, and it would really perform beautifully that way as well. Or if you really want to pack it on your lid, you can pack that all over your lid and maybe tap something like Reflectance over like the center of your lid, or even Celesta, or even Carving that we just swatched. I think that would be a really pretty combo and a really simple green smoky eye. Okay, I could not resist throwing in the final shadow in this collection, or in this palette. This one is Terra Moons Mood Ring. It's a beautiful multi-chrome, you guys. It shifts from green to blue to teal, It's just stunning. I have a hard time saying no to multi-chromes and palettes. I just think it's so much fun. It adds a lot of versatility to a palette, and while the blues may not necessarily be like super grinchy, the green Reflect is absolutely gorgeous and very, very festive. I just thought it would be such a fun shadow to throw in and really like a showstopper, like patting that all over your lid with like Aether kind of in your crease a little bit. I think that would be really, really pretty. But here are the final swatches of the palette, you guys. All of the shadows will be typed out in the description box down below if you guys missed me saying one of them, or you want to like write them down so you can create your own palette. Let me know in the comments down below. 1, what did you think of the Grinch palette from Kylie Cosmetics? Were you also super disappointed? And 2, which iteration of the Grinch is your favorite? I have to say, I really, really, really love the brand new one that came out last year. I babysit this little girl and she is absolutely obsessed with it, so we watched it like 50 times and I just think it's absolutely hilarious. I think they did such a great job with it. But that's gonna wrap up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!